Are you ready to start?
Of course, yes.
Okay. Do you have my picture and my voice clearly?
Yes, very.
Okay, thank you.
Can you see me?
Let's. Uh, yeah. This is Hosseini from AMMAR Popular Film Festival. I'm the Secretary of International Affairs, and this is my pleasure to have interview with you.
It's my pleasure to be interviewed.
Okay. Would you please introduce yourself in brief for Iranian audience?
My name is Kambiz Amir Khosravi, and even though I was born here in New York City in 1944, both of my parents are Iranian. And I left Iran in 1954 and came back for a month visit in 1960. So it's been 56 years since I last saw Iran.
Okay. Actually, your documentary is about your own life, and you wanted to show some realities that you had in past and experience. Uh, how many documentaries you have directed, and what are their topics?
Well, I started making documentaries since 1980s, early 80s. And mostly there are social and historical documentaries. The first one, for example, was on migrant workers here in upstate New York. I did a couple on famous people such as Howard Koch, who wrote the screenplay for the film Casablanca. And I was mostly interested because he was also castigated for supposedly being a communist. So I don't know whether you know the history behind that HUAC hearing. So that interested me to find out why that happened within the U.S. history. And I also did a documentary on Chinua Achebe, a Nigerian writer, all about racism, some of it in a more milder form, which I myself was a target of,
Uh-huh.
living in not so much in Germany as opposed to where I went to school in England.
Uh-huh.
And then of course, I just 2 or 3 years ago, I did a history of Woodstock, the town, which is famous for the rock festival, but even more famous, unbeknownst to a lot of people, is that it was one of the early American art colonies. So that's that documentary I did. But I think you probably want to talk about inheritance.
Inheritance, yes. And what were your motivations and reasons to make your film Inheritance?
Well, the motivation and reason was usually when I talk to people about my personal story, they said, "Oh my God, you got to make a film."
Yeah.
Um, but believe it or not, I'm very private, so that was not something I was going to do. But in 2011, my name was misspelled, and I was very worried that I might end up in prison, as a Middle Eastern terrorist or whatever. So I checked up on my name and I found out 5 or 6 books on my father.
Yeah.
And I had never known that he was doing what he was doing. So then it became very, as a filmmaker, then I thought, my God, this is a film to make because through my own personal history, I can deal with the history of modern Iran and why we are where we are, how we got there, etc., etc. And mostly, of course, based on my own experience when I was in Tehran in 1953. I lived very close to Mossadegh's house. And one day in 1953, on August 19th, I heard all these noises outside the house. As you, I don't know whether you know, but those times they used to have a wall between the house
Yeah.
and the outside. So I open the door and I see all of these demonstrators outside. And in fact, as I say in the film, there's one scene which I still remember vividly, a man shouting Mossadegh, and before I knew it, he was surrounded by people and killed, and then his body was thrown on top of a bus. And I saw tanks and all of that stuff. So obviously, at the age of 9, I didn't know exactly what was going on. But then, as things progressed, I saw daily photos of people being executed, firing
Uh-huh.
squads, and in fact, in front of the school, soon after, Vice President Nixon's motorcade rushed by, and from the university, leaflets were coming down against Nixon, and of course, they put dirt on the ground so that the tires wouldn't be punctured, you know. And then a year later, I was sent to Germany. So
Okay, so is that all the things you can remember from that time about Mossadegh?
all of those things, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Hmm.
and
You know.
more, of course. And I put as much of it as I remembered into the film, and I play it. The film is so structured as if I, as a 9-year-old, just see all of this happening, but I have no idea what the causes are. And then the historians come and tell me that it was a CIA coup, that Kermit Roosevelt was sent there, and all of these shenanigans. In fact, the killing that I saw was hooligans that the CIA hired to come and beat people up and stir all of this turmoil so that people would think that, oh my God, we have to do something. And then, of course, the Zahedi came and all of that. And then, of course, there's a new twist to this, that at age 14, when I'm in Germany, I get a phone call and it's my mother who I hadn't seen.
Yeah.
And then I go to Geneva and guess who I meet? An old family friend, General Zahedi.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Actually, in this documentary, you tried to show the history of Iran and the coup of 1953, and actually, you somehow revealed your father's personality and his character and his role in that area. And wasn't that somehow dangerous for your situation, who are living actually in America?
dangerous in what way?
In position, actually, you said that there were some possibilities for me to end that in prison, because of your name.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, but that was because of the misspelling. You see,
uh-huh.
normally when you fly within the United States, you show your driver's license as an identity instead of a passport or whatever. And the motor vehicle here had misspelled my name. So the airline ticket and my license did not match. So who
Uh-huh.
knows? They might have said, who is this guy? And I might have ended up in some camp, somewhere. So I was very paranoid and knowing what happens to a lot of Middle Easterners who live here are under constant suspicion. And unfortunately, now I just saw that Hillary Clinton won New York. I don't know whether you know this, but this does not look very good.
Okay, and actually, would you explain more about the role of America in 1953 coup?
Well, the role of America was, first of all, the British were the ones who wanted to stage the coup. And that's why when I was a young child, we used to play a game on the sand with rocks, and it was the British flag, and it was called robber. And we used to line up the
Yeah.
stones. Anyways, to get to the coup, what happened was the British then tried to convince the Americans to to do the coup. But
Yeah.
Truman was against it, and Truman, in fact, had Mossadegh come and visit America, and uh, and he was some sort of he was a bit of a hero there here in America. But when Eisenhower and specifically the Dulles brothers, one the head of the CIA and the other the Secretary of the State, convinced Eisenhower that they had to do a coup, and Iran was the first of the CIA coups. After that, I think it was Guatemala, and then and so on and so on. But that was the impotence behind the coup. And then Kermit Roosevelt, the grandson of President, the previous T.R. Roosevelt, was sent to Tehran, and undercover he bought newspapers up, he paid various hooligans, he got army generals, etc., under CIA payroll. And what happened though was the first coup that they staged was not successful. Not many people know this. There was a first
Uh-huh.
coup, and that was not successful. In fact, the general who was behind that, I don't remember the name of it, was arrested. And but the mistake that Mossadegh made was when they staged another coup. In fact, the CIA asked Kermit Roosevelt to leave after the unsuccessful coup, but he stayed, and he insisted on getting this coup done. And what happened with Mossadegh, the mistake he made is he called all of his supporters off the streets. And that was a big mistake, because if the supporters were in the streets, the tanks couldn't have gone through.
Okay, so you believe that this coup had been different stages in different stages. Okay, would you explain more about these stages, or what was the last stage that actually you named two of them?
Well, the last stage basically was they had, as you can see in the film, they had Zahedi in hiding, and Shah, of course, left the country. He flew to Rome, and so Zahedi was under hiding, and Roosevelt made sure that he paid various groups. For example, one of his tricks was to have these hooligans, these criminals, come through the streets of Tehran screaming, "We love Mossadegh, we love communism," etc., etc. And then he would have another group come the opposite direction and fight them and
Uh-huh.
say, "No, we hate Mossadegh," and blah, 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 and burn shops and, create havoc. So that gave reason for the military to say, "Oh my God, Mossadegh cannot handle this. Therefore, we have to send tanks, etc., etc." And when they did that, and then they burned Mossadegh's house, and now we go back to my own personal eyewitness thing of it, was I saw people come out of his house with mattresses, faucets, beds, just looting his house, coming out of the street. In fact,
Uh-huh.
I would love to come to Iran and to Tehran to see where that happened, because I could basically stand there and say, okay, I was standing here, and right across the street, that's when the people were coming with the looting and all of this happening, and on my right, the tanks and the soldiers were coming in. And then, of course, before that, I had seen these hooligans kill this man because he screamed the pro-Mossadegh, whatever. But so anyways, then, of course, this is probably the most curious and funniest part in the film is when Zahedi is in the radio station, and he then gets into the radio, which the military had taken over, and he broadcasts that Mossadegh is gone and I am now in charge and the Shah will come back, etc., etc. So the radio station, they looked for some music to play, some martial music, some Iranian patriotic music. And then, of course, what happened was they found one. You saw it, right? They put it on, and guess what?
So that was interesting. And actually, you said that your house
Yeah.
was close to Mossadegh house.
My aunt's house. You see,
Your aunt's house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And can you remember the name of the street and the
No,
alley? Where was that exactly?
unfortunately, I don't remember. What I remember is there was a big wall between the street and the house, and then we had a garden with fountains and roses growing, and then it was a two-story house. All of that I can remember. I can in fact make a drawing after 60 or
6 years. Yeah.
more than 60
More than
years.
6 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I don't remember the name of the street. I remember they had canals on the side of the street, and it was fairly large street. Now, where was Mossadegh's house? What was the street that was coming on the side, and his house was down that street? Now,
Actually, it's not that much difficult to find that house because we've got the address of that house, of Mossadegh house. It's so easy for us to find actually your aunt's house. But I'm so eager to find the address and give it to yourself.
I would be more than if you could
Yeah.
actually give me some sort of send me some sort of a plan.
Some pictures also,
Oh,
the pictures
pictures.
of that place and
Exactly.
actually that street, it will help you because I think if you could be able to use those pictures in your documentary, it would be so helpful and your documentary would be so fantastic. Okay, and
Actually, before you go on, that was my initial plan. My initial plan was to get a visa to come to Iran and go to those sites and basically say, okay, I was standing right here 62 years ago, and this is what happened over there. And also, all of these unanswered questions, such as my father died very young. What did he die of? Was he killed? Because I found out in one of the interviews, the Reza Shah sent him to beat him when he was Minister of Finance in 1941 and put him under house arrest. And usually house arrest in Reza Shah's term means you're dead, But luckily for him, the Allies came 2 months later, invaded Iran, and then put Mohammad Reza Pahlavi and sent Reza Shah out. Now, he was still doing all of the monies, and hence that's why I was born in New York. You see, this is, to me, I mean, can you imagine, your father, correct? Now, all of a sudden, somebody in books, you find that what you know about your father is not true. That he was totally different to what you thought he was. And that's why I find that so important, because that reflects of what was going on in Iran. and that he played such a big part in that. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, and actually, you didn't mention anything about the death of your father. That right now you mentioned that he died when he was so young.
Yes,
Uh,
I didn't know. You see,
uh,
when I
uh,
was in Germany in 1950, 2 years after I was there in 1956, the owner of the school came to me and he said, "I have very sad news for you. Your father has died a year or so ago, and we thought of not telling you because you might be very upset."
yeah. So you do not know the reason of his death, yes?
Exactly, exactly. That would be another. You see, these are all of these unanswered questions which would fulfill the whole documentary. For example, in the case of the CIA coup and the 53 this and that, and also what happened with my father. I would, for example, when I was in Tehran in 1960, my mother took me to Bank Meli because
Uh-huh.
my father was the governor of that bank, and they must have records of all of the things that was going on. You see, all of these things, the more I find out, the more I uncover, the more it'll shed light into what was going on.
Okay, and I think that this documentary is possible to have the second series. It can be completed.
Yes,
Because there are so many unanswered questions which
exactly,
can be actually be revealed later
exactly.
on. Okay, and most of the writers you interviewed had a positive perspective toward Iran. Why didn't you choose some opposite voices?
Well, that's a very good question. The thing was for me to make it, well, first of all, I chose an American because obviously if I had nothing but Iranians talking about how bad America was or Britain, etc., then people say, oh, it's just Iranians who hate America or Britain. So it was very important to have Kinzer, who is an American who wrote All the Shah's Men, to analyze and tell the story what in fact did happen and what was America's role in that. And in fact, he just came out with a book on the Dulles brothers, and his whole theory is that Dulles brothers were corporate lawyers for big companies. And once they got into State Department and the CIA, they basically made sure that their clients got the best possible deal. Oil, whatever else. Now, as to getting somebody to be critical, you mean critical of Iran, and in what way?
Actually, for example, Muhammad Quli Maj, Stephen Kinzer or
Hmm.
Abrahamian, they had a good perspective toward Iran. They
Right.
had, somehow their idea wasn't against actually a revolution or something. Was it that possible for you to have both sides, the positive and negative idea about this coup, and those who do not believe that it was the CIA coup?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, by now though, it's very hard to get anybody to say, "Oh yeah, no, no, this wasn't the CIA coup," etc., because just as I was making the film, uh, finally the CIA admitted that they did in fact do the
Yeah,
coup. You see,
yeah.
so it's going to be very hard for somebody to say, "No, no,
No.
it wasn't the CIA." Plus, my point wasn't to basically exonerate the CIA and say, well, there are some people who believe this or that. That wasn't the point. The point was more in terms of showing how outside interventions in countries like Iran produce these effects, and that was my point. Just as and that, in a sense, what I was a metaphor for Iran. As a person, what I went through, Iran went through. You see, that's
Okay.
why I used my. And then, of course, when you just make a documentary about a country or anything, people are not that interested. But when it's about somebody's personal thing, that you get them in. And then once they're in, then you can tell them what all the history and what made this happen, etc., etc. So that was
Okay.
my idea.
How could you be able to find those writers and could be able to persuade them to actually interview with you and have their idea in your documentary?
Actually,
Was it?
it wasn't very difficult at all.
Uh huh.
Basically, I did the research on finding the books, and actually the hardest one was contacting the man who
Yeah,
wrote most
March.
of the books about my father, because I had no way of finding where he was. But Kinzer was the first one, and I interviewed him at length, and he has an incredible love for Iran. He understands the culture, and he, in a sense, he can. Uh, he said that it's unbelievable that we are the primitive culture, and this is the high culture. And anyway, he went on and on about what a great country it is, and how he loves it, and how we, the U.S., through that intervention, basically ruined the first democratically elected government in the Middle East. The Americans go on about, well, we need democracy, we need democracy. Well,
Okay. Actually, in your documentary, you have mentioned about American Dream. What was your experience about it?
the American dream, meaning living in this country?
No, you mentioned that you married before going to America, and you had a dream, and that was the American dream. How was that experience? Did you reach to that dream or not?
Oh, you mean, well, what's interesting is obviously the American dream means, owning your own house, having
Uh
two
huh.
cars, uh, lots of money, etc., etc., and that's the American dream. And unfortunately, you mean personally with my first marriage?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
couldn't be able to reach that. Okay,
Well,
so
yeah.
by American Dream, you had these kind of things in your mind.
Well, yeah, well, I meant it sarcastically. Basically, what I meant was, there's this dream here that's presented, like Coca-Cola is the best drink in the world, and if you drink it then you become very happy. But in my case, what I basically said is, okay, we try to achieve this American dream, but it's a very heavy cost, and you end up in owing a lot of money, and actually that's, personally speaking, that's how the marriage broke up, because of the economic reason. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that
Uh,
what you asked? Is
yeah,
that,
yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. You actually in your documentary, you showed self-flagellation. Which is game, and walking off camels in Iran, and you somehow depicted the lifestyle of Iranian in that time. Was it all the things that you can show about Iran in that time?
No, actually, it was more deprecating myself. You see, because as 7, 8 year old, I saw these, during the holiday of the
But
flagellate.
actually, that picture doesn't belong to Iran. That
I
that
know.
was
I was trying to find
Indian.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
that
were Indian.
exactly. but
Yeah, they were Indian.
but between you and me, I don't think they know.
Okay. Yeah.
But but the reason I used that was to make fun of myself because to me uh, as a young boy, I see these muscular men and beating themselves, and I say, "Whoa, that looks really great and tough," and I want to be like that. And then of course I hit myself and it hurts, and I say, "Oh."
So, what did you try to show a modern Iran, to make some contrast with what you can remember in past and what is in reality right now?
Well, what I would love to do, and this is, if I can do this, I would love to do is come to Tehran and first of all do the initial things that we talked about. Find out the street where the house was, etc., and find out how my father died and what his further role was, etc. But even as importantly, to show Iran the vibrancy, I mean, this is 56 years ago,
Yeah.
how things have changed. Uh, and this is what I want to film and put in the documentary and expand it, you know, because unfortunately that's the part that's missing. You see, I'm talking from exile, of not being in my country
Uh-huh.
and basically getting information through news and hearsay, but not being able to be there, you see, and to say, "Oh my God, this is my country," that and look around and see how it's changed, and I mean, I you probably can see how excited, I mean, if to be there tomorrow.
So, hope so, actually. Uh, you talked about the role of America actually in the coup 1953 and what they had to Iran. And do you think the American attitude has been changed right now in a core, actually in comparison to that time, 1953 or not?
No, you know why? The main reason is that they don't know about it. You see, they have no idea. For example, you remember the segment in My Wife after the Kinzer interview, she asked him, "I went to college. I learned history. How come we were not told this?" They had not told this. And Abrahamian pointed out in the hostage crisis in the 444 days, not once was the CIA coup mentioned. So if the media withholds this from the public, they don't know. How are they going to make any judgment? How are they going to say, "Oh my God, what we did was not right"? If anything that they remember is the 79 hostage of Americans, the embassy, being blindfolded and all of that, and then the outrage, we got to go there and bomb them, and etc. Not knowing the reason why this did happen. And in fact, I think one of the funniest part is Abrahamian saying, this diplomat who was going to be sent to Tehran, and he had no idea of the CIA coup, and he thought it was Iranian paranoia.
Oh my God. Okay, so you believe that their attitude has not been changed,
Well,
actually.
they can't change their attitude if they don't know about it. You see, they only know what is told them. You see, so if they don't know that the CIA went there because of the oil, etc., then they have no idea. So
I'm talking about the government of America. You know, they know what was the reality behind what is shown to the people.
that's why I am very sad that
I'm asking this question.
yeah, well, that's why I'm paraphrasing, or rather, I'm putting it in the context that just now I saw Hillary Clinton win, and unfortunately, this is going to be very bad for Iran because she is very hawkish,
Yeah.
and but the people don't know. You see, they just know what's being told them unless they go and research and find out, etc., etc. They have no idea. So the government is one thing and then the people are something else. For example, the people who have found out my story and the CIA coup and all that, they can't believe it. You know, they said, "Oh my God, we need to find this out. We need to find, you know, this is like people who have, and the best way to say is they've only eaten spaghetti and they don't know of any other food. So once they taste the other food, they say, "Oh my God, there is another food." And this is the problem here in America that the people do not know these facts. And that was my plan to make this documentary so that they would know. And guess what? 6 festivals here that I've applied to did not want to show it. So I thought, why? And then, and this is very instructive. On Facebook, I saw this trailer for strippers. You know what strippers are?
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
they take their
Strippers.
clothes off,
Yeah.
etc.
Their
Well,
clothes off.
yeah.
Yes.
So this happened
Problems.
to be about 70-year-old strippers talking about their youth and what they did. And just the reason I'm bringing it up is on the beginning, it showed the festivals that picked this film were the festivals that I had applied and they refused. They want to show 70-year-old women getting undressed so that, you know, so they can
Yeah.
sell. Why? Because they can sell seats. But Iran does not sell seats at festivals. And that's,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, have you ever screened your documentary to some people or anywhere, any place, any special place?
Here?
Yes.
No, I just showed it to some friends. And
Uh huh.
they were very, I mean, they were very tired. Of course,
What
it's,
was
sorry.
what was their idea? What was
Well,
their idea
they,
about it?
well, they definitely said. In fact, I showed it to a Hollywood screenwriter who wrote Zach Scolar, who wrote JFK for Oliver Stone. And when he saw it, he said, "You have to have this film in Sundance, and I'll see that you get in there." Of course, Sundance looked at it, and they wouldn't take it.
Okay, and can you mention those festivals which have rejected your documentary?
Yes, actually, the first one that rejected it, and this is another funny story because on Vimeo, I can see who looks at what, you know, of my films, etc., etc. And I applied to IF Istanbul, and I got a email saying we liked the film, but unfortunately, due to so many films that we have to say no. So I went on Vimeo and looked, and I saw that the only thing that they had looked at was the trailer. They'd never watched the film.
Uh huh.
So, and I found out through various other festivals, because of the volume of films that they get, they usually have students or things, and mostly they just look at the trailer and say, okay. After 3 minutes, they say, "Nah, this is not for us," or 70-year-old women stripping in front of, yeah, that's for us.
Okay.
You see, I haven't lost my sense of Iranian humor.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, and you felt Mossadegh in that time. You know, you were 10 or 9 years
Nine.
old, and what was your feeling? And what do you know about Mossadegh? And what are the differences between Mossadegh and Imam Khomeini? And how do you feel about it
You mean now or then?
now?
Well,
Now, right now.
before, all I knew was that Mossadegh was our prime minister, and my
Uh huh.
family talked about him. And before the 53 coup, I saw many demonstrations, that was taking place in Tehran, hundreds of thousands of people demonstrating, etc., etc. So that's all I knew about Mossadegh. And later on, I found out that he was obviously a nationalist, and he wanted to keep the Iranian oil for Iranians as opposed to having the Britain and then the U.S. profit from it. Now, what I learned about Khomeini, which was very instructive from Abrahamian mainly, was how he became into the political life of Iran, especially in the beginning when Reza Shah, when Shah Pahlavi um, gave what's the word? That no Americans could be prosecuted for doing anything wrong, and he said this is terrible, this. He's basically a lackey of these imperialists, and this shows that he's there for them as opposed for Iran. And so in '79, when I was living in New York City, and all of the the revolution was happening, that's when I started also making films. And as you saw in the film, I filmed the demonstration in Rockefeller Center of Iranian students and Turkish students demonstrating against the Shah and pro Khomeini. And also, I was, because of the hostage crisis, I was personally worried in terms of not saying that I'm Iranian, because the people at that time were very, very hostile, and you never knew what was going to happen to you personally if they found out that in fact you were Iranian. But that's about as much as involvement I had, because I was so many years not in Iran. You see, I was so separated from what was happening in Iran. And that's why the film basically deals with my story, which is the story that or rather, my fight is Reza Shah, the Shah, and what my father stood for, and what they basically created this country, which was subservient to Britain and the United States. So that was my main thing, and my main objective was to make Americans and Westerners understand the reason behind the coup, how it happened, and how the Shah was put in for 25 years with a savak, and in fact, as I pointed out, one of my family members was a savak informer. You see, so this was the thing that I was involved in, because that was part of my life, and so I felt if I went on and spoke beyond my experiences of not having been in Iran, that would be secondhand, so to speak. But things can change, obviously, if I am able to come there and see what's going on. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yes. Okay, and you said you know one of your family member, he or she was in Sarawak, and could you be able to see that person,
Oh
or
no,
do you
they're
have?
dead. They've died.
They've died.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, you've not seen them.
yeah.
Okay,
No, the
and
last time I saw them was ooh, in the 90s, I think. Yeah,
90s.
yeah.
Okay, so you have not interviewed them about
No, no,
actually
no, no.
their.
Actually, I was very lucky to find the people that, like in Germany, the here in Woodstock, I meet somebody who I went to school in the 50s here in Woodstock. Can you, I mean,
So, and how did you see Iran before and after revolution?
which revolution? The 79
Uh,
or
yeah,
the
79.
53?
Yeah, no, 79.
79. What,
Yeah.
how did I?
How did you see Iran before and after revolution?
Well, what the before is my film.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's the film.
Yeah. What about the after that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. To me, it was very difficult to make any judgment or anything. First of all, since I had never been there and didn't see anything, and mostly the perception you get here in this country is not exactly what's happening in Iran. So
Yes, it's totally different.
exactly. So for me, I mean, I can make a film and say, okay, this is a perception, but then what is the real perception? You see? But where else, before the revolution, I was there, I saw it, and I was part of the overlords who did
Yeah.
all of this stuff. So I know what I'm talking about. In fact, some people might accuse me of being a class traitor, to my class, of not upholding my class, my privilege, etc. In fact, I lost houses, that were mine in Shemron, you know, but
Yes.
but this is the point of my film. They were not mine. They were taken from other people. You see, that is the whole point of the film. That even though, you see, my parents wanted me to be like them, but I don't want to be like them. To me, living next to Harrods is not what I want my life to be. So, I don't know.
And even if right now, if someone tells you that you can access to those house, money, and whatever, will you accept it?
No, no. I mean,
Why?
uh,
Why not?
because it's not mine.
Uh huh.
They were taken from other people, just like my, you know, I mean, I don't know whether I made it as clear as possible in the film. My father's wealth, that's why it's called inheritance.
Inheritance, yeah.
Exactly. You see, that inheritance, the life that I was able to live and go to the schools and do all of this stuff were part of that inheritance. But where did it come from? You see, that is the whole point that I'm trying to make. Just like the oil that was made bolstered the British standard of living for 50 or so years was Iranian oil. Without that, their standard of living would not be as high as it was. And that's the point. So for me to go back and take my houses back would 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 make a lie of what I've just made a film about. You see that and and actually some people think, you must be crazy. Why don't you want all the money and blah blah. No, the point also is that with money comes all of those problems that my parents went through. You see.
Uh-huh.
You see, I mean, there's a deep philosophical underpinning, and that's why one of my biggest revelation here in America was finding that book from the Foreign Relations, where basically it was spelled out how this inequality exists. Uh, as I said, and I can prove it from the book itself. It says are 5%, and this is 1948. We are 5% of the world's population, and we live with 56% of the world's resources. So
Okay.
why would I come back to Iran and say, no, this is my house, get out, or pay back all of the rent that whatever, this is stupid. I don't want to even, you know,
I don't
I'm
like it.
I'm proud
Well,
of it actually.
okay. I want to know whether you have faced any obstacle in making your documentary. Any difficulties you may face while making your film or documentary.
Yes and no. No, because I have all my own equipment, and as you see, I did it everything in the house. So it was like a home movie. So I was
Yeah.
able to do all of these things and then get newsreel footages and blah blah blah. So and then go to various places to do the interviews. So in that sense, I had no difficulty, although it took me 4 years. But the difficulty now is to get it shown, you see.
Yeah, to publicize it.
Exactly.
Uh, Actually, was there anything that helped you to make this documentary? Something special? Someone who helped you a lot in this procedure?
Well, what helped me a lot, obviously, were the three historians, authors and historians that I
Yeah.
interviewed, because obviously their knowledge was far beyond anything that I knew. And they taught me a lot about what had happened in Iran. And so that was extremely helpful. But I am, once I became politicized and found out what all of these things were happening, and why they happened, etc., etc., it didn't surprise me to say, oh my God, yeah, what I witnessed as a child, that was the reason behind it. You see, so uh, so being a filmmaker, my first thing was to make it and then of course show it to as many people as possible.
Thank you. And as a filmmaker, what is the most important thing for you in your filmmaking?
Well, filmmaking is mainly problem solving, because in your mind you have an idea and you try to get that idea onto film, and therefore you have to think, okay, how am I going to put this specific idea into film, and to get that so that somebody looking at it will say, oh yeah, now I understand what you're talking about, or yeah, I agree or disagree or whatever. So that probably is the most difficult and challenging and satisfying at the same time. I like the editing process the best. Shooting just things is it's okay. I'm not that much into making beautiful shots or anything. But the editing, for example, the best part I like in the film is when Kissinger, Kinzer says
Ah, okay,
that
so
they get this record and they play it and it sounded unfamiliar, and then suddenly da 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 da. So through the editing, you don't need to say anything. People understand. They understand the whole thing, and that's actually the most difficult thing to do. Is instead of explaining things, to show through images and music and things that the reality of things. But of course, it's very, very difficult.
okay. What are your most concerns or the topics that you had in your mind that you want to make a documentary or film out of them?
You mean at the moment?
Yeah, right now.
Well,
What do you think
exactly
that?
what we spoke about. I mean, my ideal would be to come to the festival. By the way, when is it? Do you know yet? When?
No, no, not yet. It is still yet to be announced.
Any idea in the autumn? In
Maybe 2 or 3 months later.
Well, ideally is for me to get. Of course, I need a visa, and then to come to Iran, to be at the festival, to talk to people, you see, to get interchange, to find out, you know, I I'm then not going to come there and say, oh, I know this, you should know this, you should know that. No, no. What do you have? What do you have to give to me? You know, what is your experience, etc. And then look around and see, and then find out. And this would make the film whole, because at
Yeah.
the moment I feel that that's the missing part. You see?
Yeah, actually, because of that, I told you this documentary needs to have the second series. Inheritance 2. Actually,
Right? Exactly. Exactly.
again,
What?
thank you about your film, and I want to ask some questions about AMMAR Festival. How come you submitted your film to the AMMAR Popular Film Festival? How did you get to know about our festival?
I believe I googled Iranian film festivals and I saw Fajr and
Fads?
Fajr
Yeah.
and then AMMAR. So I said, why not apply? You know. Um, so I did.
Okay, thank you. And do you know about anything about AMMAR Popular Film Festival?
Only from your website and Facebook.
Okay, so what do you know about it?
Basically what I saw. You know, your previous festivals, the films you showed, and then of course once my film was accepted, I delved in more to you have these bulletins. Mine I believe was April 9 when it came out, and then there's the one about the headgear, and then
Yeah.
all of these things. So this is the thing, I'm in a finding mood to find out about these things, and of course I'm honored to be accepted. So
Actually, somehow the topic of your documentary is related to the festival, and still, the juries the general recruitment and the juries should watch the film to judge about it. And
oh, you mean it's not accepted yet?
not yet, not
Uh-huh.
yet. No, we have just selected some of the documentaries which were in according to the topics of AMMAR Film Festival, and they were so close to our topics, and we somehow published some news about actually their documentaries. And as you see in the news, we have not even mentioned that it has been accepted. It said that we have reached this actually documentary to the festival, and still the general recruitment, and
Uh-huh.
after that the festival juries, the international festival juries should watch the film, and the procedure should pass,
Uh-huh.
and the rest of the things will be informed to you. And actually, our festival is called People's Film Festival or Popular Film
Popular.
Festival. Yeah. Do you know what do we mean by that?
Probably that by popular meaning it's the people's festival.
Yeah.
Geared to the people.
Yeah, that is geared to. Actually, our festival is called People's Film Festival because it has been supported by people, and people are screening the films. They
Aha.
screen the films themselves
Right.
in far villages, in their
Aha.
cities, in the universities, in the schools. Actually, sometimes in the mosque, sometimes in white areas like park.
Yes, I
People they
read about that. Yes, I
yeah,
read about
they
it. I
screen
think
the
that's
films.
wonderful. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
and actually, we are not just actually waiting for the cinemas to show the films for the people, and it's free of charge. They do
Right.
not pay any money they sitting in a far village, and they screen the film for the people, the villagers, and they try actually people try to show this film for the people.
Right.
And actually, for this year, the selected films will be screened in more than 2,000 places in Iran.
Wow.
And for example, cinema, universities, mosques, schools, and some villages. What do you think about this kind of actually activity of AMMAR?
I think that's fantastic. That's really fantastic because it brings it to the people so that it's not only a select group that goes to a
Yeah.
cinema, so it's an elite type of thing that only uh, intellectuals or high-minded people can partake in looking at these films. I think that's a great. I mean, if if I could come there and film all that, that would be fabulous because that would be part of the film in terms of the changes that are happening. Uh, shall we call it Inheritance Part 2?
Yeah, why not? Sure. Actually, it can be about the new Iran. Actually
Exactly.
modern Iran. And
Well,
do you?
it's important to show that this happened, that happened, and now this happened. You see, so
Yeah, the
obviously,
history.
exactly, exactly. I'm extremely, to me, history, and this is what we learn from it,
Yeah.
because this happened, therefore that happened, and that's part of the one of the features of the film. But I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
Okay. Do you know any kind of festival in your country which is doing the same activity? Showing
You mean
films
in
for the
America?
people. Yeah, in America.
Um, well, Michael Moore is doing something that's a little more different than regular festivals. You know,
Wha-
for example, he's very pro workers and where he came from. I don't know. Do you know Michael Moore?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
sure, yes.
So he's very much into Flint, Michigan, and all of and of course now with Flint, Michigan's the crisis, the water crisis, et cetera, et cetera. So but there are union halls, workers' halls, where they show a lot of these films, and then of course any films like anti-fracking or anything where it affects people, the filmmakers will give their DVDs to the various groups so that they can show it to
Uh-huh.
their to their people so that they can learn more about it. So that probably is the nearest thing that would be similar to what Amar is doing, but nowhere the same.
Okay. And in the future, we're going to hold an international screening program in which the Iranian films will be screened in most of the countries. What do you think about it? Do you want to contribute to AMMAR Film Festival in actually screening such films in different areas?
Of course. I mean, that's why I make film. If
Okay.
nobody, if people don't see it, then my job is not done.
Uh-huh. Okay, and thank you. That was a very interesting interview with you, and I really enjoyed it. And if you want to add anything special to end up the interview, I'm all ear.
Well, correct me rightly or wrong. So what I'm understanding now is that the film will be in the festival or not be in the festival.
It is actually under the decision of the general recruitment, and after that, the festival international juries. In the first step, The topic of your documentary was absolutely according to the topics of AMMAR, and right now all these films will be given to the general recruitment, and they will check the documentaries according to the technical filmmaking, and somehow the content. And after that, it will be in the festival for the general, for the international juries to judge whether it can win or not.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh,
it's got another two procedure.
uh-huh. Okay.
But the first step, it was according to the topic of the festival. Because of that, we have actually published news about it, and in our website, we have introduced your film.
And this interview we are doing is for what purpose?
Actually, we're going to publish it, again in our website later on. If you are accepted as a winner in the future, and I hope so, we will publish this interview about more details about your documentary.
Now, I just completed the trailer. Should I send you the link for it, or so
Yes,
that
why not? We need all the press kit, the trailer, or maybe the whether you have a poster about your documentary, whatever which is related to the documentary. We can have them and give it to the general recruitment.
okay? And then, of course, I'm very, very anxious to make the possibility of coming to Iran.
Okay, and I hope that in future, actually, we have the chance of having you in Iran, and especially in our festival.
That would be wonderful, and then I can complete the film.
For sure, inheritance too. Okay, if you want to add anything about your documentary that you wanted to say but you couldn't right now, you can add it to the interview and we can end it up.
You mean right now?
Yes.
Oh,
Uh,
basically, yeah. I mean, the whole component of the film is through my experience. I want mostly Westerners, because of their ignorance of what happened in Iran, to know why it happened, what happened, and what was the reason behind it, and who were the players, etc., etc. And that's basically the documentary. And I believe once people find out those reasons, then they can make better judgments for future actions. Because if, as I said before, if the American public has no idea about Iran, then they'll make very bad decisions about Iran. But if they know about Iran and why Iran feels the way they do about the United States, then they will say, well, they have good reason to feel that way because we were not very good to them. And that's basically the idea behind the film.
okay. Is it all?
That's it. And
Thank
hopefully
you. And
you go as many people in Iran see it as possible. That's the whole idea. Whether it's in mosques, in schools, in the fields, wherever. I think to me that is fantastic. I mean the joy to go to be able to see people to watch your film in these various places. I think that's I,
okay.
I I don't know what to say.
Okay, thank you for the interview. That was my pleasure to have you in my interview. Hope to see you.
Great, thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.
Goodbye.
Bye bye. Did you hear that? Yeah, so what's the story about? You're not in the festival yet? This is well, they obviously had to screen me.